Are you hearing the noise?
Yes. I'm not sure what that is, but. I'm not sure what that is.
Maybe someone is logged in and not muted to the presentation. Maybe someone is logged in and not muted to the presentation.
If anybody that is with us on this webinar, please turn your microphones off. If anybody that is with us on this webinar, please turn your microphones off. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Career and Job Search webinar brought to you by the Georgia State University Alumni Association and our partners at Georgia State University's Career Services. I'm Dave Cohen, coming to you from the Alumni Center in Atlanta, and our guest speaker today is Shannon Shelton, Senior Career Counselor at University Career Services here at Georgia State, the class of 2020 alum earning her master's degree from the College of Education. Our topic today is networking effectively to support your job search. And we hope you find this to be of value as you find yourself, if you find yourself currently in a job search. We want to welcome our viewers joining us this afternoon on Facebook Live, on YouTube Live, and via the StreamYard platform. We will have a Q&A session following Shannon's presentation, so feel free to submit questions. But right now, I'd like to welcome in again, our guest speaker today, and that is Shannon Shelton.
Hello, thank you, Dave. And thank you everyone for being here today to hear more about networking effectively to support your job search and your career in general. I am Shannon Shelton, Senior Career Counselor with University Career Services here at GSU on 25 Park Place in downtown Atlanta. As Dave said, I'm a proud alum of the College of Education. Go Panthers. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Dave is going to read off your questions to me. So if you have questions, we will address those at the end. Today, we will be discussing topics around networking and how they relate to the job search and your career. According to recent studies, as many as 80% of jobs are not gained by applying online, but instead through personal and professional connections. And 70% of jobs are not publicly listed. So instead, jobs are gotten through networking. Networking where we gain opportunities to learn about ideal roles and have the chance to apply and interview for them. In my work in University Career Services, I'm aware that some people resist networking for a number of key reasons, mainly because they feel it's somehow deeply challenging and even awkward. Introverts often perceive networking to be in stark contrast with their preferred personal style. But there are ways to engage in networking without it feeling intimidating and difficult. Preparation is the key to overcoming this feeling of awkwardness and this challenging feeling around networking. It's important to understand that networking is essential if you want to build a truly rewarding career that will grow as you grow. So let's get started and talk a little bit about networking. Networking is a driving force in any job search. So let's pause here and talk about what it is. Networking is the art of building connections that are mutually supported and beneficial to the people involved in networking. It is a two-way interaction. That being said, it's important for you as you're networking with other people to realize that you want to give back to them in the relationship as well. It is a two-way interaction. And networking also helps you to tap into a hidden network. And that hidden network is what I was referring to in the introduction, which is that most jobs aren't publicized. So most jobs are found out through networking and just having a good network in place. There are multiple examples of networks right here built into your life, but you must engage in them for them to be effective. For example, if any of you guys are involved with the GSU Alumni Organization or other organizations, if you've been to other schools, your alumni organizations are a great place to network. And I know our alumni organization has networking events specifically for this purpose. So I encourage you to engage in those gatherings. Also, professional organizations are a great place to network. If you are a member of professional organizations, whichever field you're in, most of those organizations will have conferences or other kinds of continuing education, as well as social hours, happy hours, things like that. I encourage you to go there and meet with people that are in the same profession as you. Also, it's as simple as engaging your friends and neighbors and even former coworkers are really great starting points for networking. You never know if a friend of yours knows someone at your dream company, or maybe someone that you've worked with, even at a part-time job or an internship. Those are great folks to network with. And you can network every day with the people that you've already met previously. Okay. So you can also ask for networking recommendations from mentors that you have, friends and family, as well as any former faculty or instructors or teachers that you had at Georgia State. Maybe you were close with an advisor while you were here. Someone at the campus that worked with you and helped you through your academic process. Think about your current employer. Even if you don't want them to know that you're looking for a job, it's important to maintain a good relationship with them until you do move on, and remembering that that is also part of networking. And just make sure that that you do go to social activities that are revolved around professional topics. And those usually happen, some of those can happen on the job, if someone is having a birthday party or a cake or something like that at the job because it's their birthday. There may be happy hours or other social hours. Or, you can use a formal platform like LinkedIn to network on a daily basis. And we'll talk more about that coming up. You need inspiring and influential people in your corner to help you land and assess potential jobs and continually evolve professionally throughout your career. To elevate our careers and all of our professional endeavors, we have to get in the right room with the right people and not focus only on connecting with people who are at our current level. So I would recommend connecting with people at all levels of all organizations, people that are at levels that you might not think you'd want to interact with, as well as people that are in roles that you'd like to eventually obtain one day. If you're just starting out with networking, here's a quick and simple formula to do it, especially if you're hesitant about moving forward networking. Some of the ways that you can get prepared to network is to get comfortable introducing yourself. This is a lot harder than it seems. We like to call this the elevator pitch, and I'm going to go into that in more detail in the next slide. But introducing yourself in a very succinct way with someone who you want to be a contact or a mentor, is really important to do. So the elevator pitch is really important. We're going to go into that. So when you're networking, you want to be able to introduce yourself. You want to make sure that you connect with the person that you're talking to. In addition to articulating information about yourself, you want to make sure you're also listening to what they're saying. Remember, I said networking is a two-way interaction, so you want to make sure you're an active listener as well. And you want to give that person a reason to invest time in you. So you want to put forth your most genuine self. You always want to ask them questions, and you'll sort of want to know what you want to ask your potential networking contact in advance. We're also going to talk about what some of those questions might be. When you are asking questions of them, you want to also be willing to share information and resources, share information about yourself, as well as resources that might be helpful to them. So you always want to make sure that you're a resource for them as well. And then the other thing you want to do is thank them for their time. When you're closing the conversation, make sure that you are gracious and grateful for the time that they have given to you in this particular networking interaction. And one good tip, just if you're starting out networking, is you want to start networking before you need it, and have a plan that includes learning and assisting others in the process. You want to give as much as you request from someone else. True networking is about people enjoying other people, people communicating their passions about work and professional life and career advancement, and connecting with others who share those same professional passions. Networking is about listening, figuring out how you can help with what others need, and connecting others with people that you think could help them. So you kind of want to go into the networking process without necessarily having the intention for personal gain be your only motive. The most successful networkers build genuine relationships and give as much as they receive from others. So what I want to encourage is for you to go beyond the thinking of what is in this for me, and get more to the position of, hey, how can I help? So you want to build a real synergy around networking. Okay, so as I promised, we're going to talk a little bit more about this elevator pitch introduction. So when networking or talking to employers or potential mentors or contacts, it's important to be prepared to introduce yourself succinctly. Basically, this elevator pitch that I'm talking about is a 30 to 60 second commercial about yourself. I like to call it the professional soundbite of who you are and what sets you apart from others. Having this practiced in advance is useful when introducing yourself at various networking opportunities or events, or even to a new neighbor who's moved in that works for your dream company. This elevator pitch is essentially the answer to the question, tell me a little bit more about yourself. And we all get that question from others. So I recommend you keep the elevator pitch short and simple. Constructing and practicing this elevator pitch has an added benefit as well, especially if you're new to networking. It really forces you to get to know yourself and be able to articulate what you're good at. It forces you also to understand what value and interest you bring to a company or to an interaction. So you need to get more comfortable articulating verbally and sharing information about your talents and contributions. And the elevator pitch is a great start. Just a couple of key points here. Remember your audience. Remember who you are speaking to. So, if you're speaking to someone who is, in a marketing leadership role, and you eventually would like to be in a marketing leadership role, You want to make sure that you target your elevator pitch towards that. So you may want to wrap up your short introduction by saying something like, and I'm so glad to see you here today because, eventually I'd like to see myself in a role very similar to yours, etc. So make sure you remember your audience. Okay, so let's go over some tips and resources to help you begin thinking about networking. I want to encourage you to network regularly. As I mentioned in one of the first slides, even networking daily is a very good way to think about it. And I want you also to believe in the power of networking. Building bridges with people and organizations and companies is your best chance at getting a job and moving up within a company. So, according to statistics and to folks that talk to us, employers that speak to us here in University Career Services, they recommend you network regularly, believe in networking, and talk to anyone and everyone at any level within a company. Never dismiss anyone as unimportant. Make it your mission to discover the value in each person that you talk to. You want to ask questions and listen with interest. Don't make the mistake of discounting people due to their job title. Someone you meet may be, a clerk or a receptionist, but they have access to lots of different people in the company. And you don't want to miss having a valuable connection or gaining knowledge from them that you would never learn if you would dismiss them. So make sure you just network broadly. If you know specifically that there are companies that you're very interested in, you want to identify those and research those potential employers. And if you're going to be networking specifically for a job, make sure you have your resume ready and customize your resume also for your audience. As I mentioned to you earlier, you always want to leverage your current relationships. That's a good starting point for networking. I encourage you also to participate in job fairs and events. That's a great way to meet people from different companies and organizations. And maintain a strong digital presence. We're going to talk a bit more about LinkedIn, so we'll go into that a little bit later. Also, learning a new skill is a great way to network. If you're attending continuing education courses or some other types of annex learning beyond your degree, that's a great way to meet people and network. And then whenever you network, you want to make sure you follow up and follow through. If you've met someone and you've told them you'd get in touch with them, make sure you do it and reaffirm your intent to assist them in any way that you can. If someone has also asked you to make a networking connection and you promise to introduce someone to someone that make sure you take the time to do it. It takes no more than a minute or two to shoot off an email to introduce two people who want to connect. Little things like that can mean a lot to people, and just one introduction can change someone else's life for the better, and then they'll be happy to return the favor for you in the future when you need it. So following up and following through is very important in maintaining your network. Okay, so say you find yourself in a networking situation, you may be wondering, what should I ask people when I see them? This slide is some examples. When you're talking to people in a networking situation, you want to focus on those open-ended questions. You don't want to ask them yes or no questions. You want to just be open-ended with your questions so that they can add additional information. You want to keep the conversation flowing. Say you're talking to someone at a company, you might want to say, can you tell me more about marketing opportunities within your corporation? You may ask them something like, why do you like working for your corporation? What type of projects are recent graduates working on? You can ask them what type of projects they're working on. And you can also say, what advice do you have for me as I pursue a career in your field? Um, and then, like I've been saying to you guys, you always want to make sure you offer yourself out as a resource to them. So you may want to say, what can I share with you about my experience, as a recent graduate, or my experience as an employee of a certain company? And then if you're wanting to talk to them further, or maybe even do an informational interview, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, you can ask them, would you be willing to discuss your experiences working at the company? And then, follow up and set up an informational interview. So, a couple of other hints here when you're talking to people and asking them questions. You want to make sure you don't reach out to someone you've just met and ask for a favor immediately. That's a networking don't. You want to build a connection and a rapport first, and you want to do that by being generous in your conversation. You don't want to pitch someone hard for a favor right after you've just introduced yourself to them. You don't want to burn bridges before you've built them. And make sure you don't ask someone that you've just connected with to recommend you for a job or for an introduction. So if you've just met, pump the brakes a little bit, get to know them a little bit more. You don't want to ask people to put put their necks on the line for you if they don't know you yet. So get to know them first. That's why it's really important to start networking before you need to network. Okay, I mentioned earlier about researching potential organizations. When deciding which companies you may want to move into in the future, or apply to, or network with, it's important for you to do your homework. Do some research so that you can ask informed questions and have a conversation that shows that you have educated yourself and show your interest in a company. So, if you really like a company, familiarize yourself with the mission of that organization. You want to be sure you understand what kind of products they produce or what kind of services they provide. Just find out what you can that's unique about that company. And I think it's even important when you're doing research to look at what kind of positions are available there, just so you can kind of take the temperature of the company. Are they hiring a lot? Does it look like they're hiring a lot of HR professionals? Does it look like they don't have any positions open right now? What's going on? So see what kind of range of positions they have available. Okay, so as I mentioned, another important strategy for networking is to request an informational interview. If you've met someone and you're really, really interested in their company and you want to go on site and visit that company, this is a great way to do it. An informational interview will help you understand what it's like to work at a company. You'll get some insider information, which is very valuable. It will help you determine if you need additional training or certification for a specific job. For instance, if you're going in specifically because you want to be a business analyst, it would be helpful to talk to someone who's doing that job and say, hey, what kind of degree do you have? What kind of training did you do for this? Informational interviews are interviews where, you're not applying for a job, so you don't have that pressure. So it really is a networking type of scenario. So there's no pressure. So that's another benefit of informational interviewing. And you'll also understand what it takes to get into that company. So that person will be able to tell you, hey, it's really easier to get into this company if you do this, or, someone may tell you, here's what you need to do, to move forward. Also, you can ask similar questions to the ones that we had in the previous slide if you didn't get a chance to ask them before. But you can also ask various questions when you get on site to a company for an informational interview. You can ask, if if you're doing an informational interview specifically for a role, you can ask what kind of background do people typically have in this role? How much experience do they need to have? What are the skills they need to have? And my favorite one is, what is a typical workday like for someone in this role? So, those are just some of the really good ways in which you can get a lot of fantastic information by going on site and speaking to people who are doing the types of jobs in companies that you're interested in. The keys to a successful informational interview really are your enthusiasm, preparation. That's what this presentation is all about, to help you prepare, and also your ability to communicate clearly. So before you go to an informational interview, think about the type of information that would be helpful for you. What do you want to know? Once that informational interview is over, always remember to thank the person who met with you, thank them for their time, and follow up. Send a thank you email within 24 hours of the meeting. Nurture and maintain your relationship with the people that you've talked to at the company. Once you make a connection, you want to keep them informed of your progress and any action you've taken based on their advice. It's another way to reach out and thank them. If they've referred you to someone else who was also helpful, maybe they recommended you read a book or a website or join a professional organization and you followed up on that, let them know you followed up. Let them know, hey, I really enjoyed that book, or hey, I attended the happy hour with that professional organization you suggested, and it was really great. So let them know that they were helpful, and specifically, in the future, what kind of positive repercussions the meeting had for you. And remember, good relationship building is reciprocal. If you read an interesting article that they might enjoy, email it to them. If you hear about a success that they've achieved that someone on their company on LinkedIn has posted, send them a congratulatory email. This is how you maintain your network once you've built it. Okay, as promised, we're going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn. You guys, I'm sure, are all active on social media at some level, but you want to make sure you have a presence on professional networks. And the leading platform is LinkedIn. And employers and people that you network with will expect you to have a visible profile on LinkedIn. In case you're new to LinkedIn, LinkedIn is the premier professional networking site. It has a bajillion users worldwide, 760 million to be exact. You want to make your profile professional and robust. We're going to talk about that in the next slide. Professional profile picture is a no-brainer. You have to have that. Employers and networking contacts are much more likely to respond to candidates with a professional profile picture. With LinkedIn, you can target specific companies you're interested in, and you can send hiring managers and other thought leaders a personalized request to link in with them. And through LinkedIn, you also want to look for people you know but haven't connected with yet. Think back to your days in school. Who were the classmates that stood out to you? Who were smart and verbal in class? Who you want to keep up with and find out what they're doing. Make sure you reach out to them and link in. If you want to land ideal roles that excite you and stretch you out of your comfort zone, you are going to have to get more comfortable articulating yourself in writing. I mean, we talked about the elevator pitch, which is articulating verbally, but articulating in writing is where it happens on LinkedIn and obviously in your resume. So you got to get comfortable articulating your talents, contributions, your areas of achievement. And a platform like LinkedIn is a great place to do that. You want to, if you have a LinkedIn profile, look at it and ask yourself, are you demonstrating on LinkedIn that you're an engaged, committed professional Does your LinkedIn profile suggest that you're excited about your field and about your work? Are you a contributor? Are you an inspiring manager? Are you making a difference? If not, give your LinkedIn a makeover. And we're going to talk a little bit about some steps to bolster your profile. This slide is directed towards a senior in college. All of it's still relevant to you guys, but some tips for building a great LinkedIn profile to make the most out of your time on LinkedIn and the space that you have. You're going to want to use all of that space wisely. As I mentioned, you want to choose the right profile picture for LinkedIn. All employers expect to see a professional headshot. You can also add a background photo behind your headshot. This adds interest and creativity to your site if you want to be a little more creative. You also want to make your headline more than just your current job title. So you want to be more specific about, quote, I'm on a mission to make access to clean water a reality in rural Ecuador. Say something headline worthy like that. Or maybe, I specialize in public health development and disaster relief. So make your headline compelling as possible. And then for the summary section in LinkedIn, I like to call that section your story. Distill what you've learned about yourself, including key values, your passions, strengths, and personality, and put it all in your summary. Don't be afraid to let a little bit of your personality shine through. You should spend most of the content on your professional life, in your summary, but leave some portion for your personal elements that help you to stand out as a professional. And on the section about your professional experience with LinkedIn, you can add multimedia in this section if that's part of your work and your career portfolio. So if some of you guys are in the film industry or in marketing or other more visual industries within LinkedIn, you can add multimedia as part of your experience. Remember to use LinkedIn to grow your network. Connect to companies and thought leaders that you admire. Follow key groups and organizations that reflect your interest. So make sure you follow those guys. And also, when they come up in your feed with interesting information, make sure you like their posts and even comment on them professionally. So make sure you foster those connections. LinkedIn is a place where you can list your relevant skills and also grow your endorsements. So in the endorsements section, you want to add around 10 skills. They have the skills already in a drop down for you. But, choose those skills that best reflect the skills and experiences that you want to be known for. You want to delete any past skills or endorsements from previous jobs that you don't want to bring into your future. Okay, so if you did a job for 6 months in sales, but you now want to go into a different field, you want to start phasing out endorsements around sales. And also remember, the quickest way to get endorsements from others is to give them to others. So make sure you endorse those people that are your connections, that you feel like do a good job. Make sure that you give back to them. And with LinkedIn, you can make a list of the top people in your career who've been the most helpful, make a connection with them, and share how they positively impact you. Endorse and recommend them on LinkedIn. And then it makes it a lot easier for you to ask them for a LinkedIn recommendation for you. Okay, so here's just, a word to the wise. You guys probably already know this, but use your personal social media wisely. When you're out there networking and job searching, you want to make sure your online presence is clean and appropriate before you go reaching out to people. because people and companies will Google you. I happen to suggest keeping your personal social media private, especially when you are trying to build yourself professionally. It's hard to manage other people's comments on your personal social media, and all of those things will reflect on you. So I recommend keeping your personal social media private. So keep the social media you want to use for networking appropriate and professional, and that can be more public. So also using social media, follow relevant accounts. I mentioned that. Follow companies and influential leaders in your industry, and be proactive, like, comment, and message those companies and leaders when you see posts about them or from them. And just be genuine as you are in all of your interactions and networking. Also be genuine on social media. And listen with the intention of learning and developing relationships. Okay. One of the other things that's really important to do once you've started networking is to keep a record of who you've networked with, as well as maybe jobs you've applied for, so you won't forget. You want to be able to refer to previous interactions that you've had with your contacts. So I recommend you keep, some kind of a spreadsheet or whatever your organization method is, your record keeping method is. But record your networking contacts so you can remember that, in May of 2022, you did an informational interview with CNN with Jane Brown, and you discussed these things, and maybe you say, followed up in June of 2022 to discuss X, Y, and Z. Just, keep a record of who you've talked to, and just a little snippet of what you've talked about to jog your memory. You want to make sure when you do have interactions with your networking contacts later, that they can be meaningful. And just to wrap it up, networking is really a great way to begin building your professional network, and it really does become a foundation for your job search. Networking is an opportunity to learn and build a foundation to reach your future goals, and the time to start is now. Always remember that networking goes both ways. Remember to ask, whatever you ask for, also make sure you ask for what you can offer. Also remember that you do have valuable skills and experiences. If you're feeling kind of down right now about your job search, remember you do have skills and experiences and areas of knowledge to share. You have a degree from Georgia State. You went to class. You have a lot to share. So build that confidence. And remember that networking is a lifelong skill, and it does require commitment, but it also requires some planning and practice. So now is a great time to get started, so that you can have that network in place, especially at times when you need it. Another thing to note regarding networking is that often professionals, and I see this in my counseling practice, professionals who are unhappy in their work can often become isolated and stay isolated for years, and not build those very relationships they need to get themselves out of that current organization and freeing themselves from unsatisfying job situations. So just know that isolation of being unhappy in your work is eventually going to work against you, and will need to change if you want to land that ideal role that excites you and stretches you out of your comfort zone. You have to believe in yourself and know what you're good at, and understand the great value that you can bring to a company, and why hiring managers should employ you. And networking will help tremendously with that. It will get you out of that isolation and it will remind you that there are opportunities out there and that there are people out there who really enjoy doing work that they love. And remember that you simply can't build an amazing, rewarding career without people in your corner to help you. None of us get to these places in our careers alone. We always need people in our corner to help us, advise us, mentor us, and guide us, regardless of whatever professional stage that we're in. So networking really helps to sort of bring all that together. And just another tip here, before you begin any networking opportunity, make sure you are prepared to dress to impress when you're thinking about meeting connections face to face. And you also want to dress in a way that you feel confident. I always just recommend erring on the side of being professional in your dress when you're in front of a potential contact. You can always play it safe and go with solid neutral colors. Suits or at least a blazer is always nice. Whenever you're networking, you always want to have your cell phone off. Choose business professional clothes unless the industry or the job profession is otherwise. I mean, some professions are a lot more relaxed. But when you do dress in a professional manner, you show the person that you're interacting with that you take the interaction seriously and that you value their time. So understand that success in your career is linked to how you feel about yourself and how you present yourself externally. So you want to show confidence in your personal appearance, right? Confidence is the best accessory. And if you're confident in what you're wearing, you're going to feel more confident talking about yourself. And networking is about connecting with other people. And you're going to feel better about doing that if you're feeling dressed and confident. Okay. Thanks so much for staying until the end. I am happy to hang around for a few minutes and answer your questions.
Thanks again, Shannon. Fantastic information.
You're welcome.
A couple of questions that have come in, and I'm not sure if there is much questions or maybe just expansion on points that you covered. But with regards to entering a room, a networking event per se, let's call it a professional networking event. Some people who are not comfortable, for example, speaking in public or in front of crowds. The prospect of walking into a room that is what we'll call a professional networking scenario can be a little daunting. And so some people have to overcome that challenge. And then there's the art of not coming off as being desperate, as I think you touched on as well. And that sometimes can be tough to do. Yes.
So I would say if going to a large networking event, a more formal networking event is feeling very daunting, I would recommend starting small. Start with a smaller group or a smaller organization or a smaller event. If you're feeling a little bit of sort of social anxiety around that, I would say, choose an event that is smaller. I would also say that it's perfectly normal to feel some anxiety going into networking and social events like that, even for the most extroverted folks out there. The people who are more comfortable at it are the people who have done it a lot. So my advice is to practice. And practicing would be, whether that's practice that elevator pitch, practice talking through your resume, practice some of those interview questions that I mentioned, just practice saying them out loud or with a trusted friend or with a career counselor. Go to some of the networking events with people that say some of the networking happy hours that happen with the Alumni Association here at GSU. And I would also say that in terms of the not coming across desperate, I would say that that's definitely a feeling that a lot of people have when they're searching for a job. And I would say that most often it doesn't show as much outside as you're feeling inside. And I would say that, again, preparation and practice is the best way to kind of, and I'm sort of speaking as a counselor here, that is the best way to kind of bring that anxiety and feeling of desperation down. Also, I would suggest doing some other things in your life that make you feel confident so that you can feel bolstered when you go into these events. So if there's something else in your life that you're confident doing, whether that's being creative, whatever those other things in your life are, make sure while you're job searching and networking that you're also doing those things as well.
I would add to that, for example, and a lot of people may not equalize volunteer activities. Those are networking activities, or can be networking activities that are not the same setting as what we'll call a professional networking activity, which might put someone a little bit more at ease because it's not a professional networking activity.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Dave. Fantastic.
And lastly, another question that came in, which is pretty much cut to the chase. Are you okay sending out copies of your PowerPoint presentation that you presented today?
Yeah, so as a policy, University Career Services, we don't distribute our PowerPoints. But if there are questions that you have about any of the slides that I have, my email address is right up here on the screen. I would welcome you guys to shoot me an email. I'd be happy to answer any follow-up questions about something that was on one of the slides. Happy to do that.
Okay, and just for anybody else asking, today's presentation webinar will be available archived on the Georgia State Alumni Association Facebook page as well. So the presentation is available for anyone that would like to watch it again or like to fast forward for information from one of your slides specifically. So that's available. That is available to anyone who's watched. Well, Shannon, we've done these before. I'm sure we will schedule another one. Very, very informative and valuable information. And on behalf of the Georgia State Alumni Association and Georgia State alumni everywhere, we appreciate it and look forward to hosting you again sometime soon.
All right. Sounds great. I enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful.
All right. We want to thank our viewers today who are joining us via Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and those watching us live on StreamYard. Again, please visit the Alumni Association online at alumni.gsu.edu. You can see our calendar of events for other upcoming alumni programs available to alumni and the community. So for our guest speaker, Georgia State alumnus Shannon Shelton from University Career Services, Dave Cohen saying, thanks for watching. Good night. We'll talk again soon. And we are coming to you again live from the Alumni Center at Georgia State University in downtown Atlanta. Thank you for watching.
All right, Dave, quick question for you.